If this is all true, Your Honor, the DA's office is paying a third-party witness to intimidate witnesses in the Karen Reed and Aidan Carney case.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the I Don't Belong Here show, and I am your host, Samantha Benigno. I am a behavioral scientist, a career psychotherapist, a sixth-year PhD candidate in clinical psychology, a master's level psychologist and counselor, and I am here breaking down the Karen Reed case. Now, it's been a big day. We just finished up, I believe, was today the 6th day in court? Feels like the 10th year. And today was Jen McCabe Day. Was another whole day of Jennifer McCabe. And there's plenty to talk about there. And I'm sure we'll get to that because tomorrow is an off day. But actually, I'm going to do something a little unusual for me today. And that is, I want to talk about Turtle Boy. For a long time, I followed this case, honestly, without even really knowing much about Turtle Boy or even paying any attention to him and his role in the Karen Reed case at all. I just watched the trial every day, just like many people are only learning about this case right now. A year ago, that was me. I was new to the case. I had heard a few things, maybe on a podcast here or there. And then I just started watching the case every day. And I had my lawyers. I would do the lawyer, review at the end of the day, and I would watch with Melanie Little. And I'm very appreciative to them for that time. It was awesome. But obviously, since then, I've dug deep into this case and tried to learn as much as I possibly can. And there's no way to do that without Turtle Boy, because he has somehow, in some way, managed to uncover at least half of every detail that we now know about this case. We owe to him, okay? And that's because of his unrelenting reporting, his unrelenting style of reporting, his just will not quit, can't quit attitude, perseverance, energy, intensity, and passion for justice. Passion for justice. Because at the end of the day, no matter what the Commonwealth claims, this is about one thing and one thing only. Justice for the fallen Boston police officer who died early morning hours of January 29th, 2022 at 34 Fairview Road. And the Commonwealth keeps playing this game. They like to pretend like it's so insane to think that there was a cover-up, or it's crazy, we're all nuts to imply that Karen Reed didn't do this.
This is a false narrative. Colin Albert didn't commit murder. Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Albert. These people were not part of a conspiracy and certainly did not commit murder or any crime that night. They have been forthcoming with authority, providing statements, and have not engaged in any cover-up. They are not suspects in any crime. They are merely witnesses in the case.
Thank you, Michael Morrissey, for clearing that up for us. It is the worst and most unbelievable and disgusting case of gaslighting I can imagine. It is disgusting. It's disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. And why am I bringing this up now? I want to say around 12 or 1 this afternoon, it breaks that Turtle Boy is going to have a motion for his bail to be revoked. And that is starting right at the same time as Jen McCabe is coming back from their lunch break to return to cross-examination with Alan Jackson. And here we are now. We've been listening to Jen McCabe and her smug, ridiculous, completely rehearsed.
Certain officers from a different agency, correct?
I was curious if they had already been to her.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
The performance of a lifetime. And as I'm listening and watching, I'm asking myself, how many times do you think she's rehearsed this, went over this? How many times do you think she's sat in the mirror and answered these questions? Do you think she's had her husband or Brian Albert ask her these questions? How many times do you think she's had them ask her these questions? How many times do you think they've reviewed and practiced how she should respond to Alan Jackson? She's trying so hard to control her reactions, to control her responses. It is so totally and completely rehearsed. It's absurd at the highest level of absurdity. And as that absurdity is happening, this is happening in another courtroom just down the hall from Jen McCabe.
So, Mr. Bradle, this is Mr. Cosgrove's motion to have your client's bail revoked, I guess.
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
If I may, Judge?
Well, I'm going to start with Mr. Cosgrove,
sir.
and I'll go over to you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Before I get to that, Your Honor,
Go ahead.
I would like to address a few things. Specifically, I would like to start with the affidavit that has been submitted in support of the motion.
Okay.
Has Your Honor had an opportunity to review that?
Listen very carefully to this diatribe, to what Attorney Cosgrove is about to say. The prosecutor in the Aidan Carney case. Listen to this.
Moving on to that, Your Honor, I object to the affidavit. I think that Mr. Kearney should produce the affiant, or that the affidavit should be stricken. This affidavit largely recounts purported hearsay by Ms. Peter, and I'm not going to go through them all one by one, but I will say, for example, that the assertions set forward in the affidavit are so preposterous and outlandish on their face that I really, I don't mean to be overly critical of brother counsel, but I really question the judgment of counsel for Mr. Kearney in going forward and filing it. For example, if Your Honor will look at item 6, supposedly Ms. Peter said, and the affiant repeats it as gospel, that at one point in the jury deliberations, Ms. Peter met with a prosecutor for lunch, and that during the lunch meeting, doesn't say where, doesn't say when, during the lunch meeting, the prosecutor was indiscreet enough to tell Ms. Peter that he knows the foreperson, who is a retired police officer, and he, the juror, is guaranteeing a mistrial. Now, does that make sense to you, Your Honor, that an experienced prosecutor, and I don't know if the named prosecutor has appeared in front of you or not, or has an impression of his, you have an impression of his ethical qualities, but he would have to be both unethical and stupid to both engage in this kind of jury tampering, and there's nothing else you can call it, and essentially contacting a juror to fix the outcome of a jury trial, and then turn that information over to a woman who is a known YouTube blogger. That's one. In item 7, she indicates that she, Ms. Peter, is paid $1,500 each month via Cash App for her assistance in the Karen Reed and Aidan Kearney prosecutions. Well, I'm tempted to make light of this, Your Honor, and say that if the district attorney is paying Ms. Peter that money, he's not getting his money's worth because I haven't heard from Ms. Peter in the entire time that I've been representing the Commonwealth in this case. But put that aside, Cash App has records, as I understand it. It has records from what bank account to what bank account. I don't know what Mr. Bradle did to verify this, but I don't see any records from Cash App, and I would like to examine Ms. Colantonio, excuse me, so far it's still impounded, but I guess I've been about the 9 millionth person to let the name out of the cat out of the bag.
And I move that it be stricken.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Cosgrove.
I would like to examine the affiant as to that information and what, if anything, that she did to verify. The affiant then says that she personally has heard Ms. Peter on the phone with Hank Brennan, that she personally recognized Hank Brennan's voice, that Peter told him that her people leaked it to the media, referring to the federal investigation being over. Well, I think the people who, putting aside the fact that I think the person who leaked it to the media effectively was the U.S. attorney on a radio interview who responded to the question of whether she had communicated with the Commonwealth and the police department as to the progress of that investigation by saying that she couldn't verify whether a grand jury investigation was over, but that it would not be uncommon for her office to communicate with law enforcement, et cetera, et cetera. Anyone who had any sophistication knew what she was saying. And about a week later, the district attorney's office verified in open court that that was the case. So I don't know why we needed Ms. Peter to leak that to the media when we were announcing it in open court, but at any rate, it's in there. I would like to examine the affiant as to how she knows Mr. Brennan's voice, how she knows about these multiple conversations, when they took place. And finally, I'll skip over the rest of them for the most part. But I come to items 14 and 15, in which Ms. Peter informs her that Jennifer McCabe bought her a brand new sectional, I assume she's referring to a sofa, as compensation for her assistance. Not quite sure how Ms. Peter has assisted witness Jennifer McCabe, but maybe it's revealed in the next section, where section 17, where Peter informs her that Jennifer McCabe paid her for her show of support. Well, subsequently know that apparently the affiant lives in the same apartment building of Ms. Peter, who has not denied in her own posting that she knows this particular witness, and presumably she knew that Ms. Peter had a brand new sectional. I suggest that the information that Jennifer McCabe brought her a brand new sectional is made up out of whole cloth. And I'm not going to go through it all because I'm hoping the court will give me an opportunity to examine this witness on the witness stand. But I think the court could ask itself why this particular affidavit is being submitted now in support of what I would suggest would otherwise be a fairly routine thing that comes before judges, motions to compel discovery.
Okay. Let me get from Mr.
And
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off.
And I suggest that the reason is this, and the court can make its own judgment. And my assessment is that the purpose of the motion is to dirty Jennifer McCabe. I don't think it's an accident that Jennifer McCabe was testifying today.
No, she did that enough on her own, dear.
And yesterday in the other courtroom. And I suggest that the purpose of this motion, which has been loudly trumpeted by Mr. Kearney on his YouTube show, was to accomplish his oft-stated purpose of prejudicing the jury in that trial.
Why was that affidavit attached to the motion to compel?
Because, Your Honor, that's the basis to show that this information exists. The Commonwealth has not provided any of those things related to Cape Peter. And my colleague, Mr. Better, who I know is watching here from New York, he wrote a letter to counsel for the Commonwealth in, I want to say, October of 24. That was the first of his 3 letters that he wrote, pointing out all kinds of these things. Ms. Peter has been under oath at other hearings, my client's restraining order hearings against her, where she has said under oath that she's cooperating with the Commonwealth. She has said it many times online that she's cooperating with the Commonwealth. To this day, our third motion to compel, discovery orders, the discovery was due a year ago, Judge, and we still have nothing. And so this woman came to us, Judge, April 21, Patriots Day, came to us Monday, April 21, and we did what a lawyer needs to do in that situation, which is we memorialized it, she signed an affidavit, and we submitted it as further proof upon Mr. Bettero's letter that this information exists. And now we have it from the horse's mouth, Your Honor. So that's the answer to your question. This woman is saying to the affiant that she is working with the Commonwealth, giving all these details about making money, about meeting with these people, about receiving funds. A lot of this has been corroborated by other people on the internet as well, Your Honor, which we're in the process of gathering up. But this affidavit, Judge, was submitted for Mr. Carney. It's got nothing to do with the Reed case. It has information in it that's important to the Reed case. We are not the Reed case. I am here today defending Mr. Carney from these scandalous allegations that just absolutely seek to destroy the First Amendment in Article 16.
Okay, so what's the discovery that you want compelled?
So, Judge, I want all the information from this affidavit and from our motion to compel about Kate Peter. She's a government agent. If this is all true, Your Honor, the DA's office is paying a third-party witness to intimidate witnesses in the Karen Reed and Aidan Carney case.
So what, maybe we should hold a hearing on that. Okay. So I'll take this under advisement.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'll come up with an order as to how we should proceed on that.
Thank you.
Now, as to Mr. Cosgrove, are there any other issues that you see? Any of the other motions that you want to bring to my attention? I know that I received a thumb drive earlier today that I've had a chance to review, and I'm sure Mr. Bradel has a copy of that.
Yes, I provided Mr. Bradel with a copy when I saw him earlier this morning. I don't know that he's seen it. I would like to play it for the court if I could.
Yeah, no, you can play it. So, Mr. Bradel, this is Mr. Cosgrove's motion to have your client's bail revoked, I guess.
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
If I may, Judge?
Well, I'm going to start with Mr. Cosgrove, and I'll go over to you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
As I understand it, according to the docket on March 5th of this year, after I initially brought this to your Honor's attention, the docket entry records that the court orders defendant to have no contact, direct or indirect, through third parties with any of the witnesses or victims in this case, and 2, stay 100 yards away from any victim's residence or place of work. Defendant assents. Bail warning read. Now,
All right. Let me explain what's happening here so you understand very clearly. Mr. Cosgrove, who allegedly is not working on behalf of Jennifer McCabe, even though one of the details that came out as per this affidavit is that Jennifer McCabe told the Commonwealth, told the DA, told Michael Morrissey that she would not testify unless they revoke Turtle Boy's bail. And just like Mr. Cosgrove doesn't think it's a coincidence that Jennifer McCabe is testifying yesterday and today, and wouldn't you know, they're having a hearing today, I would guess it's probably not a coincidence that they decided to try to revoke Turtle Boy's bail today, on the day that Jennifer McCabe is testifying in the other room. So they're trying to say that Turtle Boy is threatening Lieutenant, let me say that again, just so you understand, Lieutenant Brian Tully. But just so you understand very clearly who we're talking about, I'm going to remind you. This is who Brian Tully is.
And prior to and throughout.
Just to be clear, he is the boss of the homicide detectives for Norfolk County.
The course of your work within the detective unit, the Norfolk DA's office for the state police, what, if any, specialized training have you received and or given in regard to investigations and how they go?
For the first 10 years as the rank of trooper and sergeant, I was on the homicide section of the unit. When first entering the unit, I received instruction on how to conduct homicide and death investigations. In addition to that, I attended over 200 hours of specialized training in the use of cell phones and cell phone technology in the furtherance of criminal investigations. Further on, I have now been an instructor about cell phones and cell phone technology in criminal investigations. I've taught death investigation classes around the Commonwealth, and as well as search and.
I think this is so rich. This guy is teaching death investigations around the Commonwealth. I can't get over that. You should definitely be in that position.
Seizure law in Massachusetts.
Right.
Now, if I could ask you just with respect to your unit, if you could explain to the jury sort of what is the role and what does your unit do with respect to death investigations within Norfolk County?
So each district attorney's office has a state police detective unit assigned to it. So Mass General Law, Section 38, Section 4 says that the district attorney is in charge of all death investigations. So if someone passes away, essentially not in the presence of a doctor or the circumstances that led to their death was outside the presence of medical care, the district attorney is in charge of the investigation or their representative. And so each DA has a state police detective unit assigned to them to act as their representative. In certain jurisdictions like Boston, Worcester, and Springfield, the DAs in those counties have said that those local departments can be their representatives, but throughout the Commonwealth, the state police is the DA's representative in those death investigations.
Now, as far as assignments go, or as far as how is it that, well, as far as how an investigation is run, how is it that a call comes in? If you could take the jury through sort of from the time the call comes in, how that investigation is.
I'll talk in a typical state. Oftentimes, someone passes away, again, not in the presence of a doctor, gets found by somebody, a loved one, a friend, a passerby. They call 911, which gets routed to the local police, who respond and come to learn that someone's passed away in the circumstance. That police department will then call the troop headquarters on the state police. The state police is cut up in different troops by geographic location. Each troop duty lieutenant would have a list of who the on-call person is for the state police detective unit of jurisdiction. They would then call that trooper or sergeant directly to inform them that there's a death in a certain community and give them a telephone number to contact somebody who's directly on scene to get more information.
Now, as far as your role as sort of the supervisor or the lieutenant in charge of the unit, can you describe to the jury sort of what your role is in regard to those investigations?
So within the detective unit, we have the homicide section, a narcotics section does narcotics investigations, and a special investigation section. So specific to the homicide section, there are certain levels of supervision. We have a sergeant assigned to the homicide section. I have an executive officer who's a lieutenant, and then me. So multiple levels of supervision specific to any of the sections, including the homicide section.
Now, turning your attention to January 29th, 2022, at some point did you become aware in the morning with regard to a death within the town of Canton?
Yes.
And what, if any, when did you become aware and how did you become aware initially of what had transpired?
Shortly after 7 a.m. that date, I received a call from Sergeant Yuri Buchanan informing me that a person by the name of John O'Keefe was found unresponsive in Canton. He was transported to Good Samaritan Hospital, where it was expected he was not to survive. Normally, I would not get a call like that, but we learned that Mr. O'Keefe was an active Boston police officer, so Sergeant Buchanan wanted to make me aware of it at that point.
And so then what happened from there as far as your unit involved?
So as we learned more information about what was found on scene by the Canton Police Department, Trooper Proctor, who was the on-call trooper that day on the schedule, and Sergeant Buchanan responded to Canton Police to begin the investigation. And they would keep me updated as they learned more information.
Now, as far as your unit is concerned, what, if any, role does your unit have, or what, if any, jurisdiction does your unit have with relation to any kind of death, whether it be homicide, suicide, unattended death, within the confines of Norfolk County?
We have exclusive jurisdiction by law, but the law also suggests that we need to work with the local police departments as well.
And so how is it that typically in a typical investigation that your unit would work in conjunction with the local police department in relation to a death investigation?
Their detective unit would be involved if they have one, and some departments in Norfolk County don't. They would stand by to wait for our arrival. There'd be constant communication between the responding trooper and the detective on scene about things that need to be done prior to our arrival, but essentially wait for our guidance on what to do next.
And as far as certain investigations go, are there decisions sometimes that are made with regard to your involvement or maybe your unit not being involved in a death investigation?
Yes.
And how are those determinations made, and who makes those determinations?
It falls to either the person who's on call or their supervisor. We don't respond to all of those calls. So a police officer may call and say that a woman in her 80s has passed away in bed overnight. Her primary care doctor has said that she struggled with cancer or treatment, and that doctor is willing to sign a death certificate. In those circumstances, it's not suspicious, it's not a suicide or a fatal opiate overdose. We would not respond in that case. That would be one that we would decline. In other circumstances, we may get the call and then learn that the person's going to survive, and so we will not respond. We typically will mirror what the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. If they're involved, then we'll definitely be involved.
Now, turning to that point, as far as the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner is concerned, in any sort of death investigation that your unit is involved in, what, if any, involvement or communication do troopers from your unit or yourself have with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner?
We have constant communication. The law that I cited also says that the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner has exclusive jurisdiction as well to determine the cause and manner of death. So we work closely hand in hand to figure out the circumstances that led to the death.
Now, as far as working close hand in hand with the medical examiner's office, what does that sort of typically entail?
It takes a turn of phone calls. We'll call in and speak to the intake person or the on-call doctor to tell them what we've learned or what we're observing. We forward reports in every case to the doctor so they're understanding at least what we learned in the first 24 hours. Doctors will often reach back out to us asking for scene photographs, more reports, ask questions. And in instances where it's a suspicious death, we will send an investigator to the autopsy to stand with the doctor to make observations and answer any questions for the doctor.
Now, as far as the determinations that are ultimately come to by the medical examiner.
Oh, this one's pretty good. Watch this. Look at the smile on his face there. Did you see that, by the way? I just want to point something out. Did you see the smile on his face in that? I didn't notice this until right now. I want to go back and I want to play this again. I did not notice that until right now, but it makes me wonder if he isn't entirely aware that those sirens are on purpose. Let's look at that again.
Now, as far as the determinations that are ultimately come to by the medical examiner.
Look at his face. Look at his face. See it? See it? Look at that. You think this guy is, look at this shit-eating grin. Think he's intimidated by Turtle Boy? You tell me. Does he look like he would be intimidated by Turtle Boy?
Determinations that are made with reference to either cause or manner in any instance with the medical examiner, what, if any, role do you or anyone from your unit have with regard to that?
At least the Commonwealth should make this a fair fight. Because the idea that this man would be intimidated by Turtle Boy is so absurd. It's insulting, Mr. Cosgrove. It's insulting.
By medical examiner.
We have little to no role outside of providing information.
Little to no role, except we've already heard from Proctor that, you know, we hear from him and DeChico that it's standard practice to put pressure on the ME to do what they think she should do. And if she doesn't do that, then she's a nutbag, as Chief would say.
And as far as the determination specifically, whether it's manner or cause, as what, if any, impact does that have with regard to any death investigation that you're doing?
Well, the cause will give us a big incident. So we want to know if the person died of a heart attack or if they died of a gunshot wound. That's big when it comes to then making charging decisions about circumstances. So it's important to learn the cause, and to get the doctor's input on the manner is also helpful.
But as far as the manner, if the manner is found to be undetermined, would that impact
of course
what
not.
you learned through the rest of the course of your investigation as far as charging goes?
No, that determination by the OCME is often in the early stages of investigation, and as we learn more information, the circumstances can change.
Right, but they didn't here, right? Circumstances didn't change here. So maybe in an early stage of an investigation, it's left undetermined. But in this case, the ME did not change her findings because she knows, just like we know, that he was not hit by a car. But probably the truth is, instead of saying he was in a fight, which she knows he was, because she works with these cops, to be nice, every day, probably isn't going to throw them under the bus. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, except that clearly she knows that he wasn't hit by a car.
And the determination that is made by the medical examiner, that's strictly from a medical perspective, correct?
Correct.
January 29th, 2022, when this call that is initially received, Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Mechanic then essentially respond to the Canton Police Department first, is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as your role as it pertains to this or any other investigation, how much involvement do you have, or how are you sort of apprised of what's going on?
Sergeant Mechanic, in this case, and in typical cases, he's keeping me updated by telephone, so I can supervise from anywhere with my cell phone. He's giving me updates about what he's learning. We'll discuss what the next step should be. And that's what transpired over the morning of January 29th.
Now, over the course of the morning of January 29th.
Oh, here they are again. Here it is again. Trying now not to smile.
Over the course of the morning of January 29th, what, if any, conversations did you have with relation to the Canton Police Department's involvement or ongoing or further involvement with regard to this investigation?
I had spoken with the acting chief at the time, the current chief, the chief at the time, Kenneth Berkowitz, about the involvement in the Canton Police Department. We talked about the homeowner.
Okay, so it could have been the reference that Proctor makes. It could have been Kenneth Burkhart. Burkhart? What was it? I can't remember his name. Berkowitz, I'm sorry, Kenneth Berkowitz. It could have been him. Maybe that is the chief that he's talking about. Let's hear.
owner were at 34 Fairview and his relationship to his department. And because of the appearance of a conflict, we had made a decision that the Canton Police was going to take a step back from the investigation and that state police would do the investigation without them.
Now, as far as that appearance of a conflict or step back, as you termed it, what was your understanding at that time as far as what the role of the Canton Police would be?
Really to provide support. So anytime we're in a local community, we need the support of the local police. If we're going to start knocking on doors, we want to make sure they're aware or present. They have resources in town, whether it be lights or barriers that we may need to access. So I would define it as a support role.
Now, with respect to those conversations you mentioned that you had yourself and what the then current chief, Kenneth Berkowitz, who, if anyone else, was involved in those conversations?
The district attorney.
That would be Mr. Morrissey, is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, so wait, okay. This is why we're watching this. So let's hear that again. We're going to go back and we're going to hear that again just to make it 100% crystal clear who is involved in the decision making that the big decisions in this case. Who's involved? Who are the players making decisions? Who decided, that Canton would be taking a, quote, step back?
Investigation.
I had spoken with the acting chief at the time, the current chief, the chief at the time, Kenneth Berkowitz, about the involvement in the Canton Police Department. We talked about the homeowner were at 34 Fairview and his relationship to his department. And because of the appearance of a conflict, we had made a decision that the Canton Police was going to take a step back from the investigation and that the state police would do the investigation without them.
Now, as far as that appearance of a conflict or step back, as you termed it, what was your understanding at that time as far as what the role of the Canton Police would be?
Really to provide support. So anytime we're in a local community, we need the support of the local police. If we're going to start knocking on doors, we want to make sure they're aware or present. They have resources in town, whether it be lights or barriers that we may need to access. So I would define it as a support role.
Now, with respect to those conversations you mentioned that you had yourself and what the then current chief, Kenneth Berkowitz, who, if anyone else, was involved in those conversations?
The district attorney.
That would be Mr. Morrissey, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that normal for him to be involved in conversations in regard to a police department and any sort of appearance of conflict?
No, it's not abnormal for him to be involved.
And as far as his involvement in his conversations, as far as you're aware, did they evolve or were they any greater or less than the conversations that you had with Chief Berkowitz?
No, they were the same conversations.
There you go. There's who our decision makers are from Michael Proctor's perspective. You tell me, do you think the right-hand man of Michael Morrissey, the head boss of the detectives for Norfolk County, Brian Tully, that man, one of the 3 decision makers for the Karen Reed case? There were 3 decision makers. Michael Morrissey, Chief Berkowitz, the chief of police, back in January of 2022, and he has since passed away, and Brian Tully. So you're telling me, Mr. Cosgrove, you want us to believe and really take you seriously that because Turtle Boy made a comment on his show, a comment, didn't show up at his house, didn't even tell other people to show up at his house, didn't even say anything directly, indirectly made a comment about what he hopes happens, that he wishes for karmic retribution to come to Brian Tully for his role in ruining and scaring the crap out of Turtle Boy. You want us to believe that that man is experiencing emotional distress? You think this is a fair fight? Is that what you're saying? You think this is fair? You want us to believe that Brian Tully, one of the senior law enforcement officers for Norfolk County, who spends his time making decisions with the district attorney, the elected district attorney, that he is intimidated by this guy.
Tiny Elvis sends $10, goes, the defense needs to hammer Tully on the stand this trial. He is literally involved in every aspect of the case. I agree. Tully is the mastermind of all that corrupt piece of shit. Pisses me off that he gets away with him. He was rehomed, but he's still involved in my case and tried to have me locked up again last month. He can go get him and his stupid wife and his stupid family. I hope they all die in a fire. Next up, not that anyone, that's not a threat. It's just what I hope for. You know what I mean? I would, if I found out tomorrow that Brian Tully was burned alive in the most painful way possible, I would be so happy. Like, I would be awesome. That'd be great. I hope he dies. Like, I hope pain and misery happens to him after what he's done to me, what he's done to Karen Reed, what he's done to my children. Like, I really fucking hope, like, I would get so fucking hard if you told me Brian Tully died in a car accident tomorrow. When I heard Nicholas Garino got hit by a car, I'm like, you know what? That's fair. I don't want him to die because he's not like the main villain, but he's bad. Like, him getting hit by a car was actually good. Like, that was actually a good thing that Nicholas Garino was hit by a car. That's called karma. He was hit by a karma. Because he deserved that for what he did to Sandra Birchmore, what he's done to Karen Reed, what he's done to me. But Brian Tully actually deserves to get hit by a car and die. That's the difference between them. Like, die. And so I don't give a if he dies. I don't give a who he leaves behind. I hope it's painful. I hope every single waking moment for the rest of his life is miserable, because that's what Jesus would want me to do. Okay? I don't, this fairy tale about, I go to church every Sunday, and that's what Jesus talks to me, and that's what he says, revenge. So anyway, that's that.
Okay, Mr. Cosgrove. Here is Turtle Boy giving us some more information about his prior relationship with Brian Tully, just in case you weren't clear on some of the facts. Mr. Cosgrove.
So this is the article published last April, about a year ago. It says, Brian Tully sent grand jury summons to Lexus, TD Bank, and Verizon for records in a failed attempt to prove Karen Reed's family paid for favorable coverage. So on March 27th, 2024, Ken Mello, the special prosecutor in my case, convened a grand jury in which Brian Tully was the only witness who testified. And the purpose of this grand jury was to ask them to indict Karen Reed and me on conspiracy to commit witness intimidation charges, because these dumb mother believed that Karen was actually the one getting me to do these protests, getting me to do the rolling rally, getting me to do my shows and articles where I'm critical of the McAlberts and the Commonwealth, that I'm just a paid whatever. Like, I don't actually believe any of this shit. That's what they were attempting to investigate. This is their allegation. And that Karen Reed is really the puppet master of this whole thing. Now, that's fucking ridiculous. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And in December of 2023, on the day that the fake victim confessed to me that she had been talking to Brian Tully, and she was crying, and she was like, "Oh, they asked me about the if you paid for the or if Karen Reed bought you a Lexus." He asked me that, and I'm like, I just started laughing. I'm like, oh my God, they're actually pursuing that angle. So I got a Lexus. I bought a car in June of 2023. And it was a nice car. I treated myself. I rarely do that. But you know what? And you only live once, you know? And it's not like I was buying a fucking Lamborghini or some shit. It's a Lexus RX 350. It's like their most popular model. They're all over the road. Millions of people own this kind of car. And so I bought it because I liked it. It had a nice big ass screen, And the thing is dope. It's like a spaceship. I love driving this car. And, you know, why not? I had my own money. I paid for it. Right? That's what people do. People buy cars. My old car was like 10 years old, so I bought a new car. Oh, so guilty. And these motherfuckers start actually looking into this. Now, when they talked to the fake victim told them in an affidavit that was sworn out that I told her that Karen Reed's brother gave me a Lexus for free, that I was bribed with a free Lexus, that I would never have paid for that myself, that I can't pay for it because I'm poor, right? And this is what she said, okay? So sworn affidavits matter. Even if it's like secondhand, like I didn't say that, she's saying I said this. But she puts it in writing and she signs it, and Brian Tully can take that now and give it to a judge and ask for a warrant. And that's what he did. He took her sworn affidavit saying that I was bribed with a Lexus to spread propaganda for Karen Reed. That's the theory that they're going on here.
All right, let's stop now, because the argument that Cosgrove was making today in court is that it's hearsay to use an affidavit. This is ridiculous. This woman is alleging jury tampering from the prosecutor. How could she even know what Hank Brennan's voice is like? How could anybody know what Hank Brennan sounds like? But it's okay for them to do it, to try to find trumped up ridiculous charges about Karen Reed's brother getting Turtle Boy a car out of nowhere, out of total thin air, out of nothing. And that, let me remind you, was Brian Tully's doing. The Brian Tully, in case you missed it, that they're saying Turtle Boy is intimidating. And you tell me, who seems intimidating? This guy or that guy? To say that Turtle Boy was colluding with Karen Reed, that he must be because he can't afford a Lexus, so he must have gotten it from Karen Reed's brother. Total hearsay. Absolutely unfounded. Just pulled out of thin air. No credibility whatsoever. And this is what Brian Tully, Lieutenant Brian Tully, the lead police officer, lead detective of all of the detectives for Norfolk County's district attorney's office. This is what he used to pull the records, the phone records, bank records, all the records for not only Turtle Boy, but for Karen's family, to try to find evidence of the two of them working together. And by working together, meaning that Karen was bribing Turtle Boy to go on YouTube and scream and yell about how unfair what's happening to Karen Reed is.
But that's because the police can apply for a warrant. I'm not the police. We can't apply for a warrant for Krusty's shit. So that's the advantage that they have. They have a huge advantage because they're the police. They can get shit that we can't get. They can apply for warrants that we can't get. And I'm holding my breath if Brian Tully is going to actively apply for a search warrant for Krusty Panty's phone, because they're not looking for the truth. Of course, we know that. That's why they didn't investigate the Ford Edge and do a variety of other things. Anyway, so this is the Verizon. They sent a grand jury subpoena to Verizon and told them to bring all of my phone records in to testify on January 4th of last year. Okay. And they did the same for Karen Reed's old phone. All right. They were doing this to see how often we spoke to each other. And they got a hold of my bank records by sending a subpoena to TD Bank, who refused to testify in front of the grand jury. They got it all. They got my bank. They got John Silvera's. John Silvera is a friend of Karen Reed. They got his phone records too. In this, they can just get anything they want because they're the police. And he sent a subpoena to Toyota and Lexus of Northborough, demanding to see the purchase and sales agreement for not only my Lexus, but for Nathan Reed's and Bill Reed's Lexus.
And all of this while Jennifer McCabe, their star witness, the woman who the DA is trying to put Turtle Boy in jail for, who apparently is holding everybody in the district attorney's office hostage, is lying to the FBI. Number one, lying about her identity. They ask her, excuse me, are you Jennifer McCabe? And she goes, no. Runs in her house, calls Brian Albert, calls Carrie Roberts, calls Peg O'Keefe, and calls the district attorney's office. And they have the audacity to try to put Turtle Boy in jail for intimidating Brian Tully. You know, I gotta say, if I were Turtle Boy, I'd probably want somebody to drop a house on Brian Tully and his family too. Just saying. Something is not right here, guys. Something is not right.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm just letting you know my first live is scheduled to be next Monday night, 11 p.m. Hopefully I will see you there.